Hey, welcome everyone to another consumer tech advice video. In this video, I'm going to be discussing how people around the world in various countries are paying for AI services through their taxes or through their utility bill. That's right, you are paying for AI even if you don't want to and you have no choice about it. So if you want to see the written version of this video, you can find a link to my website in the video description, which also includes all the source links that I'll be presenting throughout this video. So I'll ask you some questions. Do you like AI? Do you like hearing about AI nonstop from governments? Do you like hearing about AI from multi-billion dollar or even sometimes multi-trillion dollar companies like Microsoft consistently and just kind of fed up with it? Well, too bad, because you got to pay for it anyway. So starting off this video, we're going to look about how AI infrastructure is driving up a sharp rise in electricity bills. This is specific for United States citizens. I feel really bad for you folks down south. We're here in Canada. I'm sure it will happen to us eventually, but not yet. Basically, this article from the PBS focuses on an interview. So it's the Jeff Bennett, the author, and then the interview is with Ari Pesco. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, Director of Electricity Law Initiative at Harvard Law School. So he provides some pretty good insight. Basically, there's a huge demand for data centers to power all these AI services because AI is a massive compute suck. It just requires a lot of computing power. But to power all that hardware, you need data center facilities with multiple server racks and all that hardware that I mentioned earlier. The other problem is that it also consumes a lot of electricity, water, and it adds to the environmental impact of global heating. So there's that concern. But the problem here is that Americans are paying for it now, like literally. So I'm just going to grab pieces of this article because there's a bunch I want to go through. So basically the author of this is asking, the Ari person from Harvard, so electricity prices are surging nationwide. To what extent is the rapid expansion of AI and those data centers driving up the cost? And it will actually increase the cost. Absolutely, there's no doubt about it. And then you're basically seeing average increases around 6% compared to as high as 14% in places like New Jersey and New York. The problem with this is that these numbers are still small because the rapid growth of data centers popping up and more AI services being shoved down our throats, even if you don't want it, these numbers are just going to go up higher. Now, you might be wondering to yourself, why is it that these multi-billion dollar and multi-trillion dollar companies are affecting my electricity bill if I'm one of these Americans? How is that fair? Well, this person, Ari, actually explains it in very good detail. And he says that's exactly the right question to be asking. But the business model of the utility industry is now more than 100 years has been invest in their systems and spread these costs for everyone. That's always thought to be a fair approach for supporting an electricity system. I'm going to quickly recap the rest of the segments, what he basically said here. What he's basically saying in a nutshell is that if you live in a municipality and you're paying for electricity services, let's say a tree knocks down your power line, they're going to repair it. But let's say you're in a neighboring city and your power line is working fine. Your utility bill will pay for the power line that went down in the neighboring city where the tree cut it down, right? They spread out that cost evenly across the whole area that's being covered. What's unfair here in this particular situation for my American friends down south of the border is that these are multi-billion dollar and multi-trillion dollar companies. It's not fair. They should be penalized and they should not have regular citizens paying for more electricity for a service that they don't even want from your conglomerate organization. It's not fair. So I truly feel bad for the American citizens here. New UK AI investment comes with a cost, your bills and our climate. Here's the problem they touch base on. This is the important factor. It's prepared to ignore the huge costs that this will have on our climate, our already creaking energy grid, and the households that will see their energy bills driven up by soaring data demand. The problem here, what they're touching base on, is that the government hasn't really planned for what does it mean for the energy sector. How will this impact your utility bills if you're living in the United Kingdom? And talking about that fact, social inequalities are also exacerbated at local level. In Virginia and Dublin, Ireland, local communities are complaining about excessive water use and strain on energy networks, which can lead to rising energy costs for low-income houses. So yeah, why do we care about people's drinking water in the same country they're taking it from? Let's just use it for big corporate AI companies. In fact, this is also a similar story in Mexico, where central Mexico is becoming the data center hub for AI for that country. And The Guardian basically reported two particular issues that come about this in central Mexico. The area experienced the worst drought in a century in 2024, stifling crop growth and water distribution to communities, the BBC reports. That year, Microsoft told the BBC its data centers in this area consumed 40 million liters of water. Now we're switching over to South Korea, which is kind of insane, and we're talking about tax incentives. This is where specifically tax dollars are going into investing in AI, tax breaks for these multi-billion, multi-trillion dollar companies. Direct investment in AI will skyrocket more than 300% in 2026, with the government setting aside $7.25 billion for the sector. Another $5.4 billion will be channeled in expanding AI infrastructure for purchasing additional 15,000 graphic GPUs to training 11,000 South Korean students and 24 graduates. All AI startups will receive $270 million to supercharge growth. What's wild to me is that in the same article, if you read it more, is that the increased spending comes at a cost. The Korea's debt to GDP ratio has now risen above 50% for the first time. So yeah, people are in debt, people are not doing well in South Korea, but hey, let's give all these major corporations a tax break when it comes to AI and investment in their country. And Japan's 135 billion AI revolution. And what are they doing there? The Japanese government's AI investment strategy centers on $65 billion commitment through 2030, 13.2 billion allocated explicitly for 2024 and 2025. And again, it's the same problem. They're using Japanese taxpayers' dollars to fund big corporate AI services. But what the Japanese government is doing here is a little bit different, and it's a little interesting, is that they're trying to have it so that AI services are more developed in-house. And what I mean by in-house is locally within their own country. They're not trying to rely on Microsoft, ChatGPT, Anthropic, and all these other American companies. They're trying to have this stuff developed in-house in the Japanese region itself, which is all good, except that their spending is just absolutely insane for AI. Like, this is a bubble that could explode. There's no reason they can't do this in partnership with other countries. Is there a particular reason this has to be funneled this much money into developing AI services within Japan itself? Or South Korea, as that earlier example I provided? There's no evidence to explain why they have to do it in their own country and spend taxpayers' dollars when the economy globally is just crumbling down to a giant mess. In fact, the Japanese government is going to fund $470 million into AI supercomputer. It's going to be split between 5 local companies. So they're giving local companies, like when I say local, I mean Japanese companies, a massive tax break and funding from government funds to get AI startups working within the country. Again, I like that they're trying to focus on their citizens, but did the citizens themselves get a say in where all their money's going? Is that less regulation, more innovation in Japan's AI governance? What this article basically touched base on is that there was a lot of good governance within Japan. The Japanese government had a lot of regulations in place, a lot of bills about AI. Problem is that they pretty much scrapped everything. They're basically giving free rein to a lot of these corporations to do as they wish with no real consequence. They can collect as much data on their citizens as they want, the AI companies, and they do whatever they want with it. And periodically the Japanese government will check on like, hey, are you being good with this data? And if companies say yes, the Japanese government will be like, okay, cool. There's going to be very little regulation. A lot of these type of videos, I try to give advice on what you should do. This is a really hard one because you can't just pack up your bags, your whole family, your life, whatever your situation is, and then move to a country where this doesn't affect you with your utility bill and taxpayers' dollars, because this is going to become a global sensation. There's only a few things you can do. It won't be that impactful, but if enough people do it, it could. The first, of course, is write a letter to your local minister or whatever that may be for your country. Explain that you're not happy your tax dollars are going to this. If enough people complain, it could make a difference. If everyone thinks, what can my single letter do? Of course, there's going to be no difference. Everyone has to speak up. The other one is, if you're forced to use AI services you don't want, drop that service. So for example, I had a personal family plan for Office 365. The problem is that Microsoft is mandating Copilot into there. So they're scanning all my files and sending it back to Microsoft services, and they're probably selling that data. Even though they say they don't, Microsoft has been caught stealing people's data all the time. I made a video on Meta, the parent company of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, as how they were buying people's private messages from Facebook itself. So Microsoft doesn't care about privacy. It's just a big joke. So anything that utilizes AI, whether it's free or subscription, just stop using it. I switched to LibreOffice. It's an open source Office alternative. Okay, I don't use a cloud storage anymore. I use everything through my I plug a USB stick into my router and use it as my own personal cloud. Maybe I'll make a video on how to get that done for you. I'll talk about that in a different video. In fact, whenever I need to use AI to help me kind of redraft some of the wording that I put on my website articles, because it's hard, I have to do all this on my own and I have a full-time job. This one AI service from Switzerland is completely anonymous. You don't have to log in. You can use it without an account. It's called publicai.co. It's fantastic. It's very transparent. They explain everything that there is to know about it. They don't want any corporate garbage. They don't sell your data. So I use this service. I'm not going to use Google's service. I'm not going to use Microsoft's service. I'm not going to help big corporate take my data and then sell it, even if they're giving AI for free, because the cost is my data. So that's the end of my video. Hope you found it useful. If you did, be sure to hit the like button. It does help. Subscribe. It literally helps my channel grow. And here I am doing this on a Friday night at 9 o'clock because I have a full-time job. So if you want to hit the super thanks button, which is like the little heart icon, show your appreciation, obligated to, and that's pretty much a wrap.